It's recording. All right, we're live. Fuck it, we're doing it live. Okay.
Fuck yeah.
All right. So what we have here, ladies and gentlemen, for your listening pleasure, is episode 1 of Rome 2. Rome 2, the podcast. Here with I'll call you Peanut, and you'll call me Nardi, and that's going to be the episode title today. It's going to be called "Call Me Nardi." Call me Nardi. That's not the title of the podcast, though. The
Should we
title of
give
the
some
podcast.
background as to why we're calling you Nardi?
No, I don't think we should. I also don't think we should tell them why we're calling this podcast Rome 2. I think once we get a corporate sponsorship and like at least 10K subscribers, we might consider talking about that. But for now, I think it's more important that we just we sort of say what we want to do with this podcast. Now, what I want to do with this podcast is I want a platform where I can go off. I can go off on
Really express ideas, shit like that.
right. Well, not just that. I want to go off on the libs. I want to own them. I want to own the libs epic style. But I mean, what do you want from this podcast? From this podcast, Peanut? What do you want?
I want to have
I mean, first off, you want to call me Nardi, but besides that,
I want to call you Nardi, but I also want someone to love me.
fuck, I didn't know you wanted to go there with this, dude.
I
But no, I mean,
no,
what do you?
I want to fuck shit up, bro. That's all I want.
That's what this podcast is about. It's about fucking shit up verbally. Now, the first thing we want to fuck up verbally is I've been debating with myself how to introduce this to you fellows in the listening audience. And if you're a woman, turn this off right now. But I wanted to introduce to you this story, and you might have heard of it, but depending on how far in the future you're listening to this, you might not have. It's the story of some nice young men from a place called Baraboo, Wisconsin. And like so many nice young men, they have a lot of youthful exuberance and expressed it in a very irresponsible way, a very threatening way, a very hateful way, you might say, because this story here from the veritable Slate magazine here about published November 16th, 2018 at 5:30 p.m. by the way, about these nice young men, these 60 young men from their graduating class in was it 60 young men? Yeah, from their graduating class. Oh yeah, it's 60. Yeah. 60 young men who, if these shitlibs had their way, they'd ruin their lives. But we'll get into that in a moment. Now, these nice young men here, they did a little bad thing. They made a gesture that was not very appropriate. They angered some people. They threatened some people. They threw up what's called a Roman salute. Now, if you're not familiar, a Roman salute, you might be more familiar if I called it a Nazi salute, where you extend your arm at a 45, I think it's a 45-degree angle. What do you think, Peanut? What would you say?
I'd say it's about a 45-degree angle. Nardi.
Anyways, now, this symbol is, well, it's understood in a particular context these days, and
as the Nazis.
Yeah. And let's just say it's not exactly welcome in today's society. But I digress. Now, this photo wasn't immediately released. It was taken back in the spring of 2018 and has only recently surfaced to see the light of day. Now, there's been a lot of responsibility shifting. The one of the young men who's in the photograph, who's notably not making this hateful gesture, has been interviewed, and he said that and I don't remember his name, but he was kind of acting like a fucking dweeb, if you ask me. But I mean, unrelated, I'm sure. Anyways, he was talking about how the photographer was the one who had incited this gesture. Now, that can't be confirmed, I don't think. I don't think we've heard from any of the other gesturers, if you will, the other photographies about any of this.
Participants.
Participants. There you go. I was trying to come up with funny words for it, but you gotta fucking buzzkill me here. Anyways.
I'm just not a dumbass.
Fuck. Anyways. we need to go off here because
fucking go off on him, Nardi.
What's happening is these nice young men, mostly white, but there are some nice there's some diversity in this Wisconsin crowd. I think there's at least one black student, maybe a couple of Latino students. I haven't done the count myself. But what it amounts to is there have been calls to dox these kids, get their personal information, their parents' personal information out, to publicly shame them for what was, by all accounts, a youthful prank. Now, if you're listening to this, go look up Baraboo High School Nazi salute, and look at the picture. Look at the picture, because I'm looking at it right now, and I don't see hardened racists. I don't see Nazi skinheads. I see kids laughing, smiling, probably joking about what an impotent fucking loser Adolf Hitler was, and making a good joke out of it. But that's not what a lot of people see. They see, some people in America, they see they see fucking Nazis. They see people that deserve to have their lives ruined, to have their futures just cast into the fucking dirt, and they don't think that these people should basically have breathing privileges. Now, and I said breathing, not breeding, but same difference, I guess. Anyways. Now that you've looked at this picture, I want you to think, does that look at like the individual faces even? They're smiling, laughing. Think about how many people you know.
Let's also, if you're looking at this picture, there also is a young man. And I say young man, I'm a young man, but there is also a young man holding a circle below his waist, doing the circle gesture, which for those of you who don't know, maybe listening to this, or those of you who didn't have a fucking childhood, the circle gesture is if you see someone holding a circle with their index finger and their thumb, with the other three fingers sticking out below the waist, and you look at it, that person gets to punch you. And some people say that it's a W and a P, and that it means white power. First of all, it's impossible for it to make a W and a P if it's below your waist or even below your shoulder. And there are people claiming that the young boy in the front, I believe he's in the very front.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at it,
yeah, he's in the front and the middle.
Yeah, he's holding up the circle to get everyone in the photo. I've done that many times in photos, and I'm like, hey, you see me in the photo? And they're like, ah, fuck, you got me. I punch him.
Yeah, and that's just the thing.
And then they're
like, this.
All of
these guys doing these things. And let me go off, King. Let me go off. I'm trying to go off. I kind of lost track there. But let me get back on the point here. You're helping me. I appreciate that. All of these kids throwing up their right arm like that. None of that is more serious than that guy doing the. Do you get to neck them when that happens, or is that something else? When you do the O symbol, is that do you get to neck them, or is it something?
How much of my point there was that it was kind of how much of a fucking joke it was.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That symbol is as much of a joke as all of the Roman salutes going on right there, all the Nazi salutes. None of it's serious. These kids aren't trying to say that they hate people. They're not bigots. Maybe they even make jokes about that sort of thing. Maybe they do, but they're not what these people are trying to make them. They're not the rising tide of Donald Trump promoting white racial hatred in America. That's not what this is. And yet for the liberals out there, this is such a propaganda victory, because they can say, look at these hateful white guys. They did this exact same thing, by the way, listening audience. If you can remember, They did something very similar to this with a great man who was just recently nominated to the United States Supreme Court, a man named Brett Kavanaugh. They also used stereotypes against him as well. Because you remember they were talking about how he was a frat boy and an asshole who just raped a girl, which was not factually true. And yet they tried to capitalize on propaganda. They tried to capitalize on propaganda to destroy this guy. And guess what? They're doing the exact same thing to these kids. For no good reason, because they don't know any of these kids. They don't know, but there might very well be Jewish kids in this crowd. You can't tell. There are plenty of Jews who are willing to make jokes at the expense of Nazis that utilize the gestures and insignia of Nazis. So basically the long and short of it is the political climate in this country is so fucked right now that some kids who make a funny joke and are clearly laughing at it, basically everyone there is laughing at it, the black kids laughing at it, they are going to get fucking roasted for this. And we need to do something about it. I think that's a great place to introduce this whole podcast we're doing because...
Well, this isn't the first time something like this has happened either, Nardi. There's a group of police officers who were taking a photo of a drug bust that they had done. They're sitting there on the tailgate of this truck with all these bags of cocaine, and one of the police officers who participated in the raid had the circle sign. It's not the same. It's not as well known to be a quote unquote white supremacist hand signal or hand gesture as
like a Nazi salute.
As a Roman Nazi salute, whatever is. But he got in so much fucking trouble. I don't know if he got fired or not, but I know he got suspended without pay pending investigation. Which literally all it should have been was literally, hey, it should have been somebody should have been like, hey, people think this is a white power thing. Hey, don't do that again.
Right.
You know, it should have been the Sarge should have been like, hey, dumbass, don't do that shit again. It's a photo that's going up on the community page. Don't do that shit.
Right.
Keep those games.
So yeah, and think about what that says about the political climate, because that was 100% a political thing they did against that guy.
And that's the thing about the left. That's the thing about the left, man. The left doesn't care about just winning. They want to ruin lives in the process.
Exactly. They don't want to just win. Well, first of all, I seriously doubt a lot of times if Republicans even want to win anymore. They just want to lose gracefully. They want to respect the rules and let the Democrats just walk right in. You notice this? Is it just me?
I noticed that a lot in this past election.
They're just willing to let them. Well, yeah. I mean, he's talking about
my boy Peanut here. It's like they almost know something that we don't.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about politicians. But, I mean, you think about it, Peanut. You're looking at these Republicans. They just... I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's getting a little distant from what I'm trying to talk about. These kids having their lives ruined.
This just goes to show that as a white male in this country, you have to keep on your toes, especially if you're on like a college campus. You have to be on your toes to not get yourself in trouble.
Right. And that's what we're doing. I mean, we had a bit of a conversation before this. I'm not ashamed to say it, but I don't think either of us want our names getting out there, even though we're saying completely moderate, reasonable things. Frankly. Yeah. I can honestly say I don't hold hate in my heart for anybody. Not really. Not on a political basis. I mean, there's some people that fucking hate my day-to-day life, but I mean, that happens, right? But
right. I mean,
and yet our opinions would probably ruin our lives. Let's not lie about that. I mean,
there are people who get run out of town. That happened to a comedian, Owen Benjamin. He made a racial joke that he later explained. I'm not going to go into detail, but at a community event in his town, and he got ran out of town. Not literally, but no one would associate with him. Nobody would. His babysitter quit coming to take care of his kids. The church wouldn't accept his money, wouldn't let him come to church. They're like, we don't think you should come to church anymore. And he got ran out of fucking town. Like, you know, honestly, what these kids did, they should have taken a fucking photo of it. in the first place.
Right.
Just like, how fucking stupid do you have to be to not sense the political climate in this country right now?
Exactly.
To know
That's the
that
other
a
thing.
photo like that is not appropriate. Yeah, you can take the goddamn photo for all I give a shit. Why the fuck would you post that anywhere?
Well,
It's
yeah, and that's the
so
thing. It wasn't supposed to be posted, and yet it ended up anywhere. And it ended up there anyway, which is exactly why you shouldn't take a photo. You're right. But here's the deal. What I'm worried about is the fact that we live in a climate where kids can't do that, where they can't have a good laugh about stupid shit like this. And that's exactly why. I don't know about you, Peanut. I don't know about you, Peanut, but I mean, that's the main reason I want to do this podcast is because, like so many other people, I think that this whole censorship, this whole climate of fear, political fear, has just gone too far. It's gone too far, and as small as our voice might be to all the 5 people that end up hearing this, I think it's important to speak out against it.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, they should have all the right in the world to post that without fear of retribution. But you gotta. It's like the same thing. It's like you can say the N word, but you gotta kind of know your audience. You might get your ass beat.
Exactly.
You might get your ass beat for it.
No,
but
yeah, and I'm not trying to argue against that.
Well, I mean, I'm
you got to
using that
accept the
as-
consequences of
that
your
as-
actions.
as an example. I mean, there are consequences to your actions, and you gotta understand the crowd. And if you put that shit on social media, the crowd is the whole goddamn world.
Right.
You know.
And I'll tell you this about the liberals. They are very good at digging through your social media and finding that one time you made an off-color joke. And guess what? There goes your job.
Well, I could never work in an office.
Yep.
That, and I also can't sit still for more than 10 minutes.
I think it takes a different kind of person to sit and work on an Excel document all damn day.
Hey, quit talking shit about Excel documents, bro.
I don't know. I mean, I worked with them for a while, and just I had visions of myself working as an office drone for the rest of my life, and I can't look at them the same way anymore, basically. Yeah, just a good example of young men having their lives ruined about dumb bullshit. And I don't know. I don't want to slap ourselves on the back too hard here, but I think it takes some amount of courage to speak out against this system and put your career on the line. And obviously, we're doing it to a very, very small extent, but there are people out there that do that. I mean, I might sort of deride atheists, but a lot of them are very respectable free speech activists, and they do good work, frankly.
Yeah, but there's also a lot of atheists who are total fucking cucks.
Oh, the vast majority of them, yeah. But some, I'll give some of them credit where credit's due. If you're willing to speak up for free speech,
I can't name one of them that deserves credit personally that I know.
I mean, there are like a couple of YouTubers. When I was in high school, I used to listen to them, but not anymore. Not anymore. I was never an atheist, to be clear, but I mean, some of them made good points, and I was willing to be pragmatic about religion. By the way, you notice that about atheists? They're never willing to be pragmatic about religion. If you accept God, they think you're a goddamn Neanderthal, but what do I know about that?
I don't know. I didn't study prehistoric history, so I wouldn't know.
I know. I know you don't want me to go off about Neanderthals. They are very interesting, but I don't think it's a very relevant thing in terms of modern politics. Unlike censorship and the libs. But that's for another time, censorship and libs, and arguing about where they came from. Because remember, the Democratic Party wasn't always like this. I'd like to go and indulge in some nostalgia for a second here before we sort of wrap up this bit. It's been about 20 minutes. I think that's solid.
Has it really been 20 minutes?
Yeah. I know.
Man,
it flew by.
Rolls through quickly.
It flies by when you call me Nardi. Remember to call me Nardi. Thank you. That's the title of this episode.
But I mean, I don't know. Your shit just rolls off the tongue, Nardi. Mine feels like it takes forever to get through because I'm screaming.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I think I'm going to take a more calm approach.
Well, but you have the benefit of this being a personal story. You get to go off on a specific lib. I was just going off on the libs, like, generally. But before we close out, I would like to say one more thing. I was kind of about to say about the Democratic Party, because I want people to understand that this country had a system for hundreds of years, literally, where we had two sides that disagreed more, I should say, than a lot of Democrats and Republicans disagree to this day, and yet we didn't have violence. I mean, we did, but it consisted of like verbal violence mostly, and occasionally there was like a duel or something, right? But we had Democratic and Republican parties, and before that we had Whigs and, well, I mean, you can go back to like the beginning, like Federalists and Democratic Republicans, but that's kind of beside the point. But we had, even as recent as 50 years ago, and I don't want to say that the 70s were an era of such political stability, but I'd say that we're actually heading towards a time in this country when we'll look back at the 70s and say, wow, that was very stable compared to this.
Yeah, that was
and
or some shit.
Yeah, I think we're heading for dark times, unfortunately. But I think that this country is built in such a way, in terms of its constitution, that that we can withstand bipartisan politics, and I think that's something people are forgetting. I think that there's a noble soul to the Democratic Party that still exists, although it's basically gone. I mean, it doesn't really exist anymore. I don't mean Bill Clinton, and I don't even really mean Lyndon Baines Johnson, although he's definitely closer. I think he was a respectable man and a respectable Southerner, more importantly, and basically
all about some rebel boys.
Basically, this is just me trying to offer an olive branch to all the libs who accidentally tuned into this and are thinking that there's no hope for America and that the evil conservatives just want to shoot you. I mean, I don't want to shoot you. I might want to shoot someone that like tries to institute full communism, but that's another.
I would ventilate a motherfucker's skull so quick for that shit.
Yeah, and hypothetically, right? Because I don't think there's anybody. I'm not making a credible threat of violence here, but yeah, we don't like communism here for a variety of reasons, but mostly because, much like any other empire, they like to do this thing called walk into your home and tell you how to fucking live. Which, speaking of which, I think we need to talk about the libs walking into our workforce and telling us how to work. I think that's something you wanted to talk about here, my boy, Peanut.
Oh, Nardi, I would love that. But quick thing that I think you should talk about is the property tax thing that we were talking about the other day.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a good point to make about how none of us, by the way, if you're in America and you're listening,
you can go off on that for a few minutes if you'd like. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I can go off on this it would probably be quicker than that because it's not a very complicated thing. Because if you're listening to this and if you're an American, you actually don't own your land. Yeah, you don't. Now, I'm not just talking about people in our generation, me and Peanut's generation here. We're talking about anybody. Nobody really owns land. There's a couple thousand of them, and it's called people that own land under the Homestead Act. Because guess what? If you're paying property tax, then guess what? You're paying rent to the government. Because guess what? If you don't pay that tax, the government comes and what do? They take you off of their land and then sell it.
They seize your land and then you owe all the payments, and then you actually go to jail.
So yeah, it's just another woke libertarian talking.
Big ass gun
That's
to your
absolutely
head.
true. Absolutely true. So yeah, that's just a quick red pill for those of you that think you actually own land. Ha! You don't. Hate to say it. And you might be paying less property tax if you live out in the sticks, which I think is much more intelligent living in the city, because when the electrical grids and water infrastructure shut down in the city, you are going to die. If you live out in the sticks, you're basically used to that, and you're good. But anyways,
has never had county water. It's always had a well.
Yep. See, there you go. But yeah. Anyways, yeah.
Off of runs off of a solar panel, and all the power runs off a solar panel. So I literally wouldn't know if there's a power outage.
Yep. So basically, if you want to live off the grid sustainably, I think that's something shit libs like. Recycling literally at all times. Basically move to the country and vote Republican. That's a quote. Anyway.
Yeah, man, they're all on board for that shit.
Hell, don't even vote Republican. Just don't vote.
They would have to get their hands dirty in order to do that, though.
Yeah, I think most of them don't want to do that. Most people here's you want to hear the real
They would
red
have to
pill?
touch. They would have to touch grass, man. Come on.
Well, no, you want to hear the real red pill? Most of the people that live in cities don't want freedom. They talk about freedom, and they talk about freedom to choose their sexual partners, freedom to, smoke and inject whatever drugs they want. But really, they don't really want freedom because most of the time they're content to do exactly what their TV tells them to do. Buy new things. Don't call people that are Muslim mean. Don't be suspicious of gays. Don't vote Republican. Don't go to church. Don't. Well, I mean, you can go to church. Just go to the one that has a purple-haired lesbian pastor. You can do that. That's okay. Um, but yeah, don't be conservative and don't. Well, and yeah, you get the gist. I could go for a few more minutes, but I don't want to be too repetitive here. I mean, well,
Don't be a straight white male property owner.
basically, and don't own guns. That's the big one right now. Do not own guns. That means your penis is small. It means you hate everyone around you and want to kill them. Basically, I mean, you can confirm this. You can confirm this, right, Peanut? I mean, because you own guns,
afraid of your own
you want to kill
shadow.
everyone.
I mean,
it does make you a violent extremist, right? Basically.
Oh, for sure, Nardi. That's exactly how I feel.
Yep.
I'm just sitting here in a room with like 1, 2, 3.
No,
4.
say AR-15. The news media likes that.
Hold on, I'm counting my guns. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 guns in a room smaller than a New York apartment. And I, believe it or not, Nardi, I have no urges to hurt anyone.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, it's fucking weird.
It's almost hold up. Let me present you with a hypothetical here. What if someone was of indeterminate race was to break onto your property and attempt to abscond, to steal your property? What would you feel then?
Well, stand your ground laws have a lot of ways that they can go sour for the victim, and I've actually read a lot about that. But if I felt like my life was in danger or the people I live with's life was in danger, I would not hesitate to extinguish the threat.
That sounds like a pretty violent extremist attitude to me. You're trying to protect yourself? I don't know about that. That's pretty threatening. Anyways, we've gone off on property tax and libertarian talking points for long enough. We need to talk about the labor force, another thing the libs are trying to control.
Oh, this is going to be the hard part for me.
I'll interject so that you remember to call me Nardi.
I just need you to not talk, Nardi.
Damn. So you're patrolling me. I'll be like a Muslim woman for a few minutes. I won't talk.
Just
go on. I'll give you 10 minutes to go off about the labor force and about our friend who messaged you on Facebook about this.
So basically, me and Nardi went to high school with this motherfucker who made a Facebook post that said, "What are you conservatives gonna do when automation replaces all the unskilled labor jobs?" That is literally one of the most fucking retarded things I've ever heard. There's no research involved in that. Incorrect terms based on the context that I perceive, and a bunch of other things. So what he means by unskilled labor is pretty much anyone that doesn't work in a fucking office. So a farmer is a fucking dumbass, a welder, a mechanic, a builder, construction guy is a dumbass, a fucking retard, loser who should have gone to college and gotten an accounting degree or a political science degree. And yeah, basically they're all fucking retards. And I couldn't agree more.
Okay, go on.
Because I had to work with them. That's why. I'm not because they're actually fucking retards. I just hate everybody. But basically, that's incorrect. really the only unskilled labor jobs that I believe there really are is working in fast food. You have to be pretty fucking stupid to not know how to work a cash register and to not know how to flip a hamburger or fry fries. So that's shit's pretty goddamn unskilled. Granted, it's a pretty shitty job though. So he thinks that you can automate ironworking, building big staircases and I-beam structures and superstructures for buildings. Yeah, a robot's really going to care about the welds that it makes and making sure that its welds are up to code and correct and cleaned out and done properly when it's welding two load-bearing joints together in a 70-story building in the middle of Manhattan. Yeah, for sure. A robot is really going to give a shit when it accidentally drops a bolt down into the cylinder of your motor while it's working on the throttle body from on top of the motor. It's really going to give a shit. The robot truck driver is really going to give a shit when when there's an error in the lines of code that's programmed into his route, and he thinks it's supposed to be a nonstop route and doesn't understand that there's a school bus that there's a school bus, parked on the middle of the fucking freeway and slams right through a busload of kids. The robot's not going to give a shit when it's supposed to be cultivating and not planting, and accidentally runs through a field with a cultivator of freshly planted soybeans. They're just the robots that I've seen are just not there yet, and I honestly don't even think in my lifetime, maybe by the time that I'm maybe in 2050, I'll be 50 in 2050. Maybe by 2050 there will be autonomous enough robots to do some skilled labor jobs. Yes, there's a little bit of autonomy in the agriculture world, in large scale row crops with very, very large fields that take 20 to 30 minutes to make one single pass. Farmers have auto steer on the tractors, but they still have to sit in the tractor and operate the machine and make sure everything's running properly. If the first automated tractors are going to be powered by diesel motors, if nobody's sitting in that tractor monitoring all these gauges and monitoring what's happening to the tractor's just going to keep going while it's overheating. Yeah, and in order to incorporate the amount of knowledge into that computer, in order for it to know to shut itself down before a serious catastrophe, costs astronomically higher prices than just a pure machine that's automated. Right. You're talking millions. You're talking the prototype. I saw a prototype automated tractor and doing a demo in a field on YouTube. The price to just build, and this is a rough price, obviously with mass production involved, the price will drop a little bit, but the price to produce the only one, this prototype completely automated tractor, doesn't even have a place to sit on the tractor, cost $1.5 million.
And just to remind you folks, that's for one.
For one. Most large-scale row crop farmers, silage farmers, have 4, 5, 6, anywhere from a dozen to 2 dozen tractors, depending on the size and scale of their operation, and the varying tasks that go by on their day-to-day property. And I've worked in a lot of trades with a lot of very, very skilled people, and what they don't understand is that no one knows everything. There are guys that I have always looked to like, if I didn't know something, I would ask them, and 9 times out of 10 they would know the shit. But I've seen grown-ass men who've worked in a trade for 20 years get their head spun around by something that's like, I don't understand why this won't work. This makes no fucking sense, whether it's on a motor or building a house or doing a simple welding repair on a backhoe. they're just like, I don't understand why this one thing won't fucking work. I've done it 1,000 times. And they got to sit there and think as well the robot's just going to shut down and call it, and it's going to be like, work halted, blah, blah, blah. And somebody's got to come out there and figure out why it's not working. And, 70 years from now, when that's happening, there's not going to be any iron workers to go out there and be like, oh yeah, this is why there's not going to be any iron workers to go out there and sit there and puzzle about it.
Right.
And
Right.
why
No
it's
qualified iron workers.
Because it's going to be all technicians to
No
work on
qualified iron workers, what you got to say, because they'll have plenty of people sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah.
But anyways, what I'm getting from this is, one, the random shitlib didn't understand how like manual labor works, big fucking shock, and two, just technology is not there yet. Also, that the Terminator is going to be coming for us in a couple of years, so get ready for that.
So, Nardi, what was the point you were trying to make about the Guatemalans?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the other thing about these shitlibs that don't understand manual labor, is you see this thing going on right now, and like I said, you might be listening to this in the future, so you might have to go look this up, but there's this thing going on right now in U.S. politics called the Caravan. And what the Caravan is it's a bunch of Central Americans, not Mexicans, Central Americans from places like Nicaragua, Guatemala, Honduras, who are coming to America to seek refuge. Now, what that really means is they're coming here to take our nice jobs. And when I say take, I mean they're coming here to work for less than Americans are willing to work for, and for less than most companies should be paying for. Anyways, these people are on their way in, and wouldn't you know it, most of the fine liberals in our country are ready to open their arms and say, please come in and work manual labor jobs, because realistically, these people aren't all, STEM majors, or they haven't made their law degrees quite yet. Let's just say that. So,
doctors and that kind of shit.
Anyways, when they come in, they're going to be working minimum wage, low skill, manual labor jobs, which is, if you'll be paying attention, exactly what these same liberals are deriding Republicans for trying to revive. They're saying, oh, but automation. Well, what do you think you're going to get when you import these nice Nicaraguans? You're going to get manual laborers. So what do these liberals think is going to happen to these manual laborers when we run out of manual labor jobs? Kind of makes you think.
Yeah.
Kind of puts the noggin jogging.
And their thing, Nardi, about the automation is like, why don't we just automate it? Yeah, I'll just snap my fingers real quick, just like that.
Snap my fingers, automate, and get rid of the most common job for American men, trucking. That sounds like a good idea. That won't have any bad consequences.
Yeah. What do you think's going to happen when a bunch of grown men
and Guatemalans,
when a bunch of grown men one day in these big old 85,000 pound hunks of steel that can go 80 miles an hour find out that they no longer have a job?
Well, they're being told this already, by the way.
What do you think is going to happen? What do you think
nothing
they're going to do?
I'm sure they'll just shuffle off into retirement. Pounds. Absolutely nothing bad.
Absolutely nothing bad could possibly come from that.
By the way, fun fact. Another recent news event. There was a shooting at a synagogue in, I believe it was Pittsburgh.
Yes, it was Pittsburgh.
I'm going to feel bad if that was wrong. It might have been Philadelphia.
No, it was Pittsburgh.
It was Pittsburgh? Okay, I was right the first time. I got to stop doubting myself. Anyways, there was a shooting in a synagogue recently that was absolutely tragic, actually. Unironic. This is something that people shouldn't be joking about, despite the fact that a lot of people do. And if you're doing that, you're not a Christian, and stay the fuck away from me. Anyways, this happened recently, and guess who the perpetrator was? A trucker. Fun fact. Who was on his social media talking about how he was stressed about the fact that he wasn't going to have a job in a few years. Now, I'm not saying that was in any way justified, but what I am saying is that this sort of decision does have consequences, and it's something we got to keep in mind.
I did not know that.
Continue to go off, King.
Yeah, well, I mean, I pretty much made my point. It's just these fucking shit libs don't just don't understand how the real world works.
They don't think. They don't look. They don't pay attention.
Like having my job not only has made me understand how things and the life I've lived up to this point, Nardi, has given me such a perspective of like where the fuck my food comes from. I don't feel bad when I kill an animal.
Yep.
And you know, it gives me such perspective of how my house is built and still standing around me. I understand how things where things come from and how things go together. And I can fix things.
Yep.
I can fix pretty much anything in my house.
Well, yeah. Whereas the modern shitlib
Pretty much
has a
anything
goddamn has a goddamn panic attack when he sees his engine light come on.
Uh-huh.
Anyways. But yeah.
My engine light stays on because I know it's actually not a big deal because I actually know how to work on a car.
No, and I'm not going to make any claims about being a mechanic, but that's one thing that me and my father have done is we've worked on my car, and it's, I mean, if you haven't done that and you don't know how to do it, can you really
If you
call
don't know
yourself
how
a
to change
man?
your fucking oil, you're a fucking idiot.
Yep.
Yeah, Nardi, that would have actually made a really good senior project.
Oh, that's true.
Teaching kids basic mechanics. Check your tire pressure, change a tire,
Yeah, 100%.
change
How to
fluids.
not freak the fuck out when like something minor goes wrong. How to not freak the fuck out and go pay way too much to a mechanic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But you know now at the school, it's actually the senior project is actually the same thing as the sophomore project.
Damn, that's kind of gay actually.
It's actually like way easier now.
So they kind of fucked us over, huh?
Yep, totally. We were the last year who did it.
That sucks. I didn't know that. And that kind of ruins it too, because it was a good thing, I think. Despite the fact that I talk shit about it. I mean, I learned stuff from it.
I mean, my entire thing was completely 100% forged.
Damn. Well, see, you're ruining this genuine moment I was having here. I mean, mine wasn't like anything complicated. I just stuff with nature. I'm not going to say any more because I don't want to dox myself to the world out there. But I enjoyed it. It was meaningful. Anyways,
I think it is time for us to talk since we're talking about.
One more thing. You did say something about meat. I wanted to mention this. You mentioned that you're comfortable with the thought of like having killed an animal. I think unpopular opinion about policy that I want to institute. You should not be able to eat meat unless you're killing the animal that you're eating. Originally, my opinion was that you should not be able to eat meat unless you're killing and cleaning and preparing the animal. But I realized that cleaning an animal takes practice, and I'm willing to make an exception. So yeah, if you're not willing to kill an animal like most shitlibs are,
I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that, Nardi. I think that's a little bit too much to ask. I think people should just I just wish that they would have a better appreciation.
Oh yeah.
Where
obviously I'm just trying to make a point, but you get what I'm saying.
Anyways, yeah, I know.
You were saying though?
Since we were talking about high school and the good old days of our youth, why don't we talk about this big trend right now?
Oh yeah. Well, actually, I'm gonna have to cut you off right there because before we do that, we got to do our halftime show. Actually, this halftime show, which is going to be more like a 2/3 time show because we're almost 2/3 through our planned content, and I don't want to have us just go riffing off again because that might end in tragedy. Yeah. So I'm going to do our halftime show here. Our halftime show, by the way, for those of you who are new to this, which is all of you, because we've never done an episode before. Actually, that's a lie too, because we did an episode before this. We call that, this is episode 1, that was the pilot episode. The pilot episode's never going to see the light of day because there was no structure. We didn't plan. Now, you have to understand, this is a minimum effort podcast here, but it is a minimum effort podcast, which is to say there is some effort put into structure.
It is maximum effort on my part.
Absolutely. That I don't mean to denigrate you. Anyways, there is some effort here, but the pilot did not reflect that. So we felt so bad it will never see the light of day. It's never getting published. I am going to keep an audio file so that if one of you guys gets us that corporate sponsorship, we will publish it. But yeah, nothing for now. Sorry. Anyways, but like I was saying, halftime show. For those of you who are new to this, which is all of you, the halftime show is an experiment, excuse me, in seeing how well we can do a sort of bit in the middle of the show here. Now, our halftime show right now is going to be, it's going to be what we call the hate week, because every week, all of us, and not just me and Peanut here, we have a bit of a thing, all of us. All of you out in the listening audience, out in Rio, Rylander, we have this thing every week that we think about when we go to bed, that we think about in the shower, and if you take a bath, you think about it in the bath, when you're driving to work, when you're making breakfast, when you're making dinner, when you're eating your shitty fucking sandwich for lunch, and it pisses you off. Now, that could be that guy that cut you off in traffic. It could be the fact that your fucking lawnmower broke. It could be that your dog shit in the house again. But it always pisses you off. And it might be a little thing, but it pisses you off in a big way. And usually there's a reason behind that. And that's what we're going to do here for our halftime show, the Hate Week, where we talk about what's pissing us off this week. So, Peanut, I defer to you. What are you hating right fucking now? Besides our dear friend who popped you that Facebook message.
Well, Nardi, it wasn't actually a Facebook message. It was a status.
Well, see, I don't have Facebook, so I don't know how that works. But anyways, go off.
So, you probably don't know this, Nardi, but earlier today, was the final race in of the NASCAR series for this year, of the whole season. And my boy Martin Truex Jr. Was in the chase to win the Monster Energy Cup. It was him, Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, and Kyle Busch. I like Kevin Harvick, and I like Martin Truex Jr. We call him T-Rex. I hate Joey Longneck Logano, and I hate Kyle Fuckface Busch. So basically, Joey Logano won, and it really fucking pisses me off because he shouldn't have been in the chase to begin with. Because at Martinsville, which was 2 races ago, he coming around on the very last turn of the very last lap of the race, he pitted. He slammed into Martin Truex Jr. and sent him sideways, and he beat him for the win and guaranteed him.
Halftime show's supposed to be short, dude. We got to blaze through this.
And so he guaranteed himself a spot in the chase for the championship, and he shouldn't have been there because he raced like a fucking jackass and not very sportsmanly. And Truex should have taken his chance today and wrecked him when he had the chance, but he didn't. So I'm pissed off about that. Now, Nardi, it is.
Well, see, I don't. The reason I was telling you to rush along is because I felt increasingly bad. The thing that pissed me off this week is I accidentally scratched the paint on my car, and it was entirely my fault, and I was goddamn retarded because I did it in a Taco Bell drive-thru. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. No, I hit one of those. You know those like cement pole things that they have to like mark the lanes in the drive-thru? I hit one of them. And it didn't dent my car because I didn't hit it very hard, but it scraped a little tiny bit off. Yeah. And that pisses me off because, you know, I'm not going to spend the money to go get it resurfaced. And I did put a little bit of, what's that shit they have? That, like the paint. You know what I'm talking about. The stuff that they put on cars to, like, the name's on the tip of my tongue. The thing that they put on to, like, cover up scratches. Fuck, I don't know. Anyways.
They have like paint pen. You can go get like a paint pen that matches your color at all.
It's just a little thing, dude. I know I can fix it. But I don't know. It's just
Is
not
it like little, or did you like scrape down the entire door?
No. It was little, but it was big enough to where scratch remover doesn't really work. But it's also in a spot that like nobody sees, so I'm basically good.
It's like into the paint.
It
wasn't just on the clear coat. It was actually into the paint.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And but that $5 box was good though. You like Taco Bell?
Taco Bell's pretty good. I like the Dorito taco.
All right, now somebody get on that. We got to get that corporate sponsorship. Rome 2 brought to you by Taco Bell. Yeah, no, I don't know their slogan, so I can't do that.
I would love to be sponsored by Mountain Dew.
That's true. Anyways, so yeah, that's the halftime show. Write in the comments what you think we should do for our halftime show. Hate Week is gonna keep on. I'm gonna try and come up with something more consequential, but I don't like scratching the paint on my car. I'm gonna try and come up with something more consequential. So Hate Week's gonna stay a thing. We might just have to limit it to like a minute for the story, but because it is halftime. It's the halftime show. It's supposed to be short. But
I mean, I just kind of want to give some context because I know not every.
I'm not going off, King. I'm just saying. But write in the comments what you think we should do for our halftime show. No other feedback will be accepted. Sorry, we only want feedback on what to do with the halftime show because the rest of the show is perfect. So long as you call me Nardi, that is the title of the show. That's the title of this episode. The title of the show is Rome 2, and we might tell you why someday. Anyways, that's the halftime show. And now we're going to move into, before I interrupted you so rudely for the halftime show, the final subject today, which is something that is hip and cool with the nation's youth and is being legally banned. No, it's not marijuana. It's vaping and Juul. Have you ever vaped and have you ever Juuled? My boy Peanut.
I actually have done both.
I have not Juuled. I have vaped, though, and I cannot see the hype, to be honest with you. How is Juul different, actually?
Juul is basically, they, instead of buying a bottle of liquid to like put into the tank of the vape, it just has a liquid in a cartridge, and it's like a different formula. Instead of being oil-based, it's salt-based. So salt crystals that are getting burned. Damn. And it's in a little pod that you clip into the little USB stick. The thing about Juul is that they're like very clandestine and hard to notice because they're the size and shape and color of not necessarily color. You can get them in different colors, but they're the size and shape of a USB drive. And on Snapchat all the time I see these fucking stupid Truth ads, and Truth is honestly, it's just fucking, the whole Truth campaign is fucking stupid. It's not
the anti-tobacco stuff, by the way, for those that aren't familiar. It's not just anti-Juul, by the way. They were starting to be against the whole vape pen thing, and then the box vape, and then they were against.
They're pretty much against anything that's related to nicotine.
Yep.
And to be fair, I do dip on a regular basis. I dip about a can a day.
This is a Pro Dip podcast. We're looking for a sponsorship, please. What's the brand, Peanut?
Stokers.
So it's a big shout out to Stokers Stash. What did you say? Stoker Stash? Stoker Stuff? Snuff. Excuse me. I don't know dip. But yeah, we're looking for that sponsorship, so please.
Really good product.
Shoot us a message.
Nardi, you can actually buy them in tin can tubs that come with like a little can with the tub. And so you can buy a tin can tub for, and I mean 10 TEN for $16, as we're buying a can of Copenhagen or Skull or whatever costs, $4 or $5 for a single can. So you're spending, if it's $5 a can, for 10 cans, that's $50 instead of, or you can buy the tub and it's $16 for 16 and change for.
Well, that certainly sounds like a very good deal and a company that knows how to spend their money. Now, hopefully they spend it on us for that nice sponsorship. Anyways, my extensive knowledge about tobacco products, I'll be honest with you, I'm a very, very well-disciplined young man. I did go off the wagon a little in high school, but recently I don't do tobacco that much. I do indulge in cigars occasionally, smoke the nice Stokester, but cigarettes aren't my thing. None of that's my thing. So basically, Red pilled me on Juuls and what's going on with the ban, because there's a lot of legal action going on right now. Why are Juuls the center of attention right now? Because I know they were trying to do stuff with vape, but that never really materialized, did it? Why is Juul so different?
Juul is so different. Juul is so popular with high schoolers. It's so popular with younger people because it's so easy to conceal and to hide. Because if your parents go into your room and they see it, they think it's a USB stick, and they don't know.
Better yet, they just might not see it because it's so fucking small.
As we're with the vape, as we're with a box mod vape like the one I used to have when I was trying to quit dipping. Those are much more noticeable, and and it's just different. And the thing that they banned, they didn't ban the sale of them. They banned the sale of the flavored pods
Oh,
because
really?
it's like because they're trying to because like they're trying to get kids hooked on like sweet flavors and shit
Oh,
like
damn.
which
Oh, that
is
makes sense.
so fucking fucking stupid because think about how many different types of and they're trying to do the same thing with dip and with swisher with like all the different flavored swishers, you know about that,
Mm.
and the white owls and all like the black and miles and all that shit,
Oh, yeah.
because those are all flavored, they're all different flavors.
I mean, when you say flavored,
Cigarettes.
do you mean like the ones that are like bubblegum or shit, or like the menthol stuff as well? Because I mean, menthol, is that like kind of a flavor, or is that like something else? Because I'm not too
That's kind
familiar.
of a flavor, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they're going after the menthol because the menthol was their original flavor.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So,
But basically
oh,
because they're trying to say that it's like there's like trying to get these kids hooked on these sweet flavors. Well, think about how many different alcohol companies make like flavored vodka and all these flavor like Smirnoff Ice
yep,
and all that shit
yep,
and Mike's
that's
Hard
exactly
Lemonade.
what I was gonna say. And
How
think about
much
all the
how
Instagram
much
fonts that post pictures
alcohol?
of that shit.
How many people die from alcohol related deaths?
I'll tell you what, it's more than the ones that die from tobacco-related deaths.
Oh, tenfold, guarantee it. DUIs, alcohol poisoning, domestic violence.
And related cancers, by the way, people don't talk about it.
Yeah,
I mean,
liver
obviously, everybody knows about smoking and lung
cancer,
cancer.
kidney cancer, throat cancer, all that can be associated
Stomach cancer, yeah, that's a big one.
with alcohol, brain damage. And I'm not saying that vaping is that much more healthy for you. Vaping is a lot healthier for you than smoking cigarettes or something like that. But
Cigars are the best, though. Just saying.
it's still got chemicals in it. Yeah, cigars are the best because you don't actually inhale the
And
shit.
pipes too, but pipes like you got to fucking focus on it because you got to keep that shit lit. Cigars are so much easier.
Yeah. I actually have a pipe.
I've been thinking to get one. You know any good places?
Yeah. Next time you come up here, Nardi, uh, I'll I'll take you to the shop that I
sure.
go to.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Uh,
our friend in the Secret Service. He knows some good places too.
yeah, he's actually a member at my shop, even though I've
Oh,
never.
yeah. Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah, he
what I'm
said he
talking
was
about.
gonna
Yep.
come play poker, and then he flaked.
Damn. Well,
Classic.
no, I'll be sure to tell you when I'm coming back and come back up.
Are you gonna be in school here next semester?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what I heard? Yeah. You should come play poker with me, man.
100%. As long as the stakes aren't too high, I'm broke after all.
Well, it's free.
Oh, okay.
You
Anyway.
can, you can spend money and pay more and play for longer.
Anyways, that's enough about us, folks. We're talking about the kids these days, and what they're up to. But yeah, no, Jewel.
Dude,
I'll be honest with you. I was
anything.
never, like I said about the whole vape thing. I always thought it was kind of a meme. Like it was literally a meme, the whole vape niche thing, and then like people doing vape. And like I said, I've tried it. It's just like it seemed like why bother? I mean, it's. I guess is it because it's cheaper, or is it like the nicotine's better? I don't get it. It didn't seem like it to me.
I don't know, it was just because people thought smoking was dangerous and they thought dipping was dangerous and all this other shit, and they still wanted to get nicotine. So they found a safer way
Well,
and a
yeah,
cool way to get nicotine.
yeah, and the I remember because the original e-cigarettes were like these things that like, I mean, a lot of them didn't even have nicotine because it was just for people that were trying to quit smoking, and then like they turned it into an
Well,
alternative
they
to
all had
smoking.
nicotine in them.
Well, I thought that like eventually they transitioned to just like not having it, so it was just like the reflexive thing.
I don't
Like
know.
I
I don't
need
know
to
about.
smoke something, so they
I
like
don't
did
think so.
that.
But
I mean,
yeah,
I know most of them did, but it seems like that was something too. Maybe I'm just retarded and wrong.
the original e-cigarettes.
Well, not. I'm not saying that the originals didn't. I'm saying that some of them didn't, but a lot of them did.
Some of them might have, but I remember the original vapes were these e-cigarettes that were essentially the same thing as the Juuls, except they were circular and they were shaped exactly like a cigarette.
Or like a pen, yeah. And
Well,
it's
not
like you
like
would
a
just
pen.
slip it
No,
into your
the
pocket.
very first vapes were shaped exactly like a cigarette, and they ended up
Yeah.
lit up like a cherry on a cigarette.
Yep.
And then those kind of got phased out. I mean, Mark 10 still makes them.
Yeah, those are the vintage. That's the OG. That's the OG Jewel, the OG vape pen.
Back 2008.
Yeah, that shit's changed, dude. Just goes to show. I mean, ultimately, I mean, we got to bring it. We got to bring down the Rome 2 decision here. What's our opinion on, like, discouraging vape use, vape bans, vape legislation? What do you think? I
Trying
mean,
to
I think
stop.
there's actually, unlike a lot of this whole like prohibition and other stuff like that, I think that there's actually a good argument to be made that, like, this candy. I mean, first of all, what self-respecting man uses like Juuls with like cotton candy flavor stuff? And I think it's obviously a pretty good case of where this stuff is being used to attract kids, just like Happy Meals at McDonald's. You know what I'm saying?
Well, okay. Well, my thing is that it's not really. They're still selling the flavored stuff, but they're selling it at like They're allowed to sell it at like vape shops. They're not allowed to sell it at like gas stations.
Well, yeah,
But
exactly. I mean, that's
my
effectively
fucking
it.
thing is that like even if they made it like 21, I can't tell you how many times in high school before I was 18, I got some random dude off the street to go into a gas station and buy me dip. All
Hmm.
the That's how it's done if you can't get it. And all these like sophomores in high school are doing that already. So
They learn fast, huh?
banning it isn't going to make it any harder for them to get it.
That's true. But
I mean,
ultimately,
there's
and
smoke
I
shop.
think I think you're right about that. But I think a lot of people would acknowledge that argument and just say that yeah, it's not going to stop it, but it sends a message, you know. And ultimately that. But ultimately, I think it should be said that I agree with what you're saying, and I think generally speaking, government bans of stuff aren't aren't the solution. I think because what it is it's like it's banning. I'm gonna make a hot take here because we're on the hour actually. We're just over the hour, and I think we're sort of winding down here, which is pretty good because like we're almost out of content. But I'm gonna make a hot take, and I'm gonna ask you what you think and about my take and what your opinion is on this. But I think that the argument that like people make about like the libertarian argument, I should say, is that the government shouldn't ban stuff because what's going to happen is, and especially for like, they shouldn't set an age limit for like alcohol. And I think that's basically correct because back in the old days, anybody could, there wasn't like anything stopping a 7-year-old from drinking alcohol. It was just understood. There was like a trusting society that was like, no, we're
Yeah,
not going to get this kid hammered drunk, right?
yeah, I mean, his parents would stop him. That'd be about it.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So, although I don't think we can go back to that, what I think we can do is we can promote that sort of mentality, and we can also say that the government coming in and cracking down on the distribution and purchase of stuff like that, relatively harmless stuff. I mean, how many people that hit a jewel once or twice are going to be dying because of it? I mean, I guess the science is still out, but ultimately, I don't think it's fatal. I think that something that's much more threatening, that's not getting as much press and should be, is the stuff with the hard opiates, And I guess
Yeah,
who's
the opiate
distributing
problem in
that?
America is yeah.
Opiates are a big thing.
Last year alone, there were enough prescriptions filled for every grown person in America
Oh yeah,
to get prescription opiates, which is so there's a serious problem.
yeah. Well, yeah, and you got to think about it. The tobacco industry, and I guess Juul and vape are kind of attached to that, whether they like it or not, is getting
Just
its
the
ass
nicotine
kicked because,
industry,
hmm?
just the nicotine industry in
Right.
general.
I get they're getting their ass kicked because they don't really have any friends. But guess what? The pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer, Sackler, I think the Sackler family owns Pfizer. I'm freaking stupid. I don't know it off the top of my head. I'm not a 700 IQ genius. I'm just a 600 IQ genius. But
Oh,
yeah. But all those companies, they have friends in government, whereas the tobacco industry has been stigmatized. I mean, think about it. When I talk about smoking, the first thing that comes to mind for so many people, especially younger people listening to this, lung cancer, because of the advertising. It's been successfully advertised to be you smoke, you get lung cancer. Whereas that's not. Yes, there's a causal relationship, and I'm not saying smoke a pack a day, right? But I am saying opiates are just as bad, if not worse, and watching what they can do to people is
no,
depressing.
they're worse,
Mm-hmm.
guaranteed, 100%
Mm-hmm.
worse.
And guess what? They're endorsed, and people are kicking and screaming, talking about even regulating their use. People are talking about how the Trump administration. I have problems with the Trump administration, but ultimately, I think that they're the attempt that he's making, Trump himself personally and the people under him are making to at least assess the threat presented by opiates. I think we can see it as a real threat, but the government, before they can really act on it, they got to assess the threat. I think that's a noble gesture, and I think it should be done.
There's
Whereas
just so much corruption in the pharmaceutical industry, it's not even.
and it's all connected to the government. And guess what? Tobacco industry doesn't have that, so they're the ones getting schlonked by this PR campaign.
It's fucking bullshit because the tobacco industry used to, like, they're not even allowed to advertise in, like, sports anymore.
Well, yeah, and guess what you see on TV all the time? Advertisements for hardcore drugs. Stuff that will fuck your mind up forever.
Yeah, alcohol all the time. And, like, but my thing...
Like, I don't want to go against the alcohol. Hey, they're cool. I like them.
I mean, I like alcohol, but I mean, alcohol gets to do it. Think about how many more people die from alcohol than from tobacco every year, like I said. And they get to be they get to sponsor cars in NASCAR. NASCAR used to be the headline sponsor for the biggest racing series in NASCAR. It was called the Winston Cup after the Winston Cigarette Company.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Then, you said that I'm sorry, you just said NASCAR used to be the biggest sponsor for NASCAR, but you're talking about tobacco. Tobacco used to have a big stake in NASCAR.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, if you look at the old race cars that you have as like toys, they have the cigarette sponsors on the top.
Yeah, there was a Marlboro, there was a Marlboro car, a Skull car, a Copenhagen car, and I mean it was in. I mean they had their banners on.
Not even that long ago. This was early 2000s, wasn't it? Was this early 2000s, or was this earlier than that?
As late as the early 2000s. I mean, in Georgia, they passed the law to, like, you can't smoke inside in Georgia in 2008 or 6 or something like that. Like, not that long ago.
I don't think it's the hill I want to die on, but it's just another thing. It's just another thing that people are trying to control. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, I understand you should if you're doing something that's not hurting anyone else, that's fine. But I mean, smoking indoors inside of a restaurant is hurting other people.
Right, and that's true. It's just
other people have reactive airways and have asthma, and it is creating secondhand smoke. And
but we don't even need to get into asthma. I mean, let's talk about why that's happening. The air pollution and people just being like not as exposed to stuff when they're young. You know?
No air pollution. There's not.
Well, I mean, why is asthma at a higher incidence then?
Are you one of them fucking greeny climate change motherfuckers?
Not exactly. No, I mean, I think climate change.
You'd be stored in the balls. In the poles.
No. I mean, we might have to shut off the podcast before Peanut here comes and tries to kill me. But no. I'm just gonna say that no, and that's not what I'm trying. I think let me tell you the real reason I think there's an increased rate of asthma. I think it's because don't go off yet. I'm trying to explain myself. I think it's because there's an increased incidence of children being born to older and older mothers, which increases the incidence of all kinds of diseases, including, by the way, autism. I don't think vaccines cause autism. Now, you can go off on me for that. I think it's caused by the fact that the average age for a mother has gone up by more than 10 years since, I can't remember if it was 1960 or 1970. Which is a crazy statistic.
People got married and settled down at a lot younger age, 40 years ago.
Anyways, that's unrelated. Well, that's not unrelated, but it's kind of tangential because we were talking about asthma. But basically, the conclusion here that I have is that much like drinking, much like even I'm willing to go so far as to say marijuana, maybe even other drugs as well, but not like meth or like heroin and stuff. Obviously, there's some line. It just depends where you draw it. I think that to a certain extent, regulation by the government is necessary, but it should be understood as a family thing, as a thing inside the family unit. And in terms of, it should be a cultural thing, not a government thing, to regulate these drugs, these substances. And I think that to regulate them too much is overbearing. Like that's the thing about smoking indoors. It should be understood that it's a polite thing. Don't smoke in this place. You can have a no smoking sign in your restaurant. I don't think it should be on the rolls federally. I don't think that's necessary, frankly. I think it should be we should have a society polite enough to where if somebody's smoking in your restaurant, you can say, please leave, or please put that out.
A smoking section in the restaurant or something.
Exactly. There you go. But yeah, that's me libertarian posting for the day. I don't consider myself a libertarian. It's just I think there are a lot of places where if you're against being tyrannized by a giant government, you kind of have to be a libertarian at this point in today's society.
Yeah.
But that's me. I think that all the young kids, all the Gen Z, all the millennials older though. I guess I don't know if we're millennials or Gen Z, but I won't say any more than that about us. But I think that all the Gen Z kids out there, jewel away. Obviously, be cautious about over jeweling. There's such thing as too much of anything, but jewel away, kids, as long as you can. That's been me. Anything else you want to say today, Peanut?
No, I think I pretty much agree. I mean, kids are going to get into trouble, and high school kids are going to do whatever they can do or they're going to do whatever it takes to do what their parents don't want them to do, no matter what.
Yep.
Whether
playing Fortnite and jeweling. So
whether nefariously or not, or deviously or not, kids are just going to be fucking kids, and they may grow out of the phase. They may decide, I don't like being fucking tied to this fucking thing where I can't do anything else without jeweling while I'm doing something else, which is kind of where I'm stuck at right now with dipping. But, I just don't see the problem with it. If somebody, we're here for a good time, not for a long time. If somebody wants to enjoy their shit and die by themselves without hurting anyone else, let them.
I might have to counter-signal you a little there because I think we need to be a good Christian nation, but that's a subject for another time. Don't need to go into morals today. We're talking about hitting a fat fucking vape, taking a fat fucking rip, and God bless. And this has been Rome 2, episode 1. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. And
please like, comment, and subscribe.
And we are still looking for that dip sponsorship, so please do not stop dipping. We're looking for
a Mountain Dew sponsorship, and we are also we will tell you what Rome 2 means when we hit 10,000 subscribers.
Maybe not even then. If we got that dip sponsorship, maybe we'll tell you, and maybe we'll release that pilot episode. It's just it I don't want to, so I actually kind of hope this isn't successful. But what do I know? Anyways, this has been Rome 2. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye.
I've been Nardi, and he's been Peanut. Thanks.